Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. Have you wondered who are the Black men that you pass on the street every day? What are their lives like? Well, in this podcast, we have an in-depth conversation with Black men from all across America and all walks of life. Listen to their stories, their experiences, their wisdom. I'm your host, Robin Shine. Get comfy.
So I'm very excited today to introduce you to an amazing music producer. He has a mission to inspire artists to create the art that the world deserves. He is phenomenal. Not only that, but he is a coach to creatives. And I know that he's worked with people I know and helped them access that creativity that seems difficult to pull out, and somehow he's able in a conversation just get them free of some of the blocks. And so this amazing man, Mr. Malachi Mott, is with us today. Welcome, Malachi.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm originally from New York. I ended up on a path where I was going to be a computer engineer. And I think at the end of the day, I didn't really like it. So that kind of became part of my mission, was to help people who are on a path and they see art as something that they want to go into, but they're not really sure how. So I was someone that was able to take a leap of faith, and I ended up switching schools and going to Berklee College of Music, then flying out to LA, and I've been in LA now for 12 years. And I've created a few different businesses in order to sustain myself while I'm out here. One of two siblings. I have a younger sister. She also is an artist.
Okay. And what art, if I can ask?
She's like Broadway singer. So she's been on a few. She was in my favorite Broadway musical, Avenue Q. Yeah. So she's been killing the game. She's not doing that as of now. However, that is where her heart was lying for a while. So.
And would you say you come from an artistic family?
No, I wouldn't. Our family, we're all a bunch of hard workers, and I think, you know, I've always been in the arts, but I've also been very academic. And I think we were definitely hardworking and academic family. And I was the rebel that just was like, nah, I'm just going to push away and hop into the music. And I think that inspired her. So my dad can draw, though. I've seen my dad draw once or twice, and I'm like, wait a minute. What is this?
A little hidden talent here.
Yeah, like, it was good. Yeah, we love art and we participate, but we've never been creators or identified as that in my family.
Well, you certainly are that now. Let's jump in. Now, I know since you're a music producer, there are probably a ton of songs that top the list, but if you had to pick one for right now, what would that be and why?
So tough. It changes every week. The Baby has a song called Drop, Boogie with the Hoodie. It's the two of them. They have two songs together. I would say those two songs are in my top 10 right now, because they just, like, when I listen to them, I feel cool and confident. And like, I noticed the impact that music has on me and my body and my spirituality. So if I'm driving to an interview, I'll like listen to music to get me in the mood for that. If I'm driving to like be with somebody, like, so that I can be like a shoulder for them, then I'll listen to music for that. You know, like, so for right now, that's my favorite song. It's called Drop.
What's a favorite childhood memory?
You know, just Christmas in general, I think, has always been my favorite childhood memories, because it's the four, my mom, my dad, my sister, and I, and my grandmother. She would always be at my house. I think it was one time that we could just be together and not have to like do anything or be anywhere, and we could just spend quality time.
And what was it about that time that you would be with your family? Like, what was the experience like?
There was just a lot of happiness. I mean, you're opening presents, so everyone's in the best mood, you know? People who are contributing, people who are being contributed to. And there's always this music blasting, you know, and we dance and good food. I mean, it's the best of everything. That I think also just having my grandmother come over, it was very cool to have her be at our house. And just,
Yeah. What did you love about her?
oh man, what didn't I love? Her intelligence. She was real witty too. Like, you know, you know, when you love people, you kind of like pick on each other and like jab a little bit. You know, I jab with her and she jab right back, and I'm like, okay, it's real fun. You know, definitely miss jabbing back.
In terms of words, like, words matter, just like music matters, words matter. I'm wondering, is there a favorite quote, book? What words inspire you?
There's a TV show I watched as a kid called Adventure Time, and they had one where the person said, "Sucking at something is the first step to kind of being good at something." Before I heard that quote, I had it that there's things you're good at and things you're not good at. But then
Hmm.
after I heard that, it just occurred to me as like, if you're not good at something, it's just because you haven't worked at it yet. So right now, I'm a jack of all trades because of that quote, I would say.
I love that. I always thought I was not an artist, never could be, never would be. When I took art in school, it was always drawing. People would look at what I thought was a sunset and go, "Oh, nice bird." And so, it took a while for me to try and just to be okay with trying. So I really appreciate that quote. And I hope our listeners really take that to heart, that it's really just getting out there and giving something to try. If you don't fail, then how are you ever going to succeed? You
Yeah,
know?
you should have an expectation of failure. Look forward to the failure. It's part of the process.
It is part of the process. Speaking of, it's the process to get us to success. And so now I want to ask you about some of your accomplishments. I asked this question in two parts because, there are accomplishments that we hold dear, that mean the world to us. And then there are accomplishments that it's not to say they're insignificant to us, but they seem to be the ones that impress others.
Right.
Sometimes they're one and the same, but sometimes they're different. So my question is in two parts. First, what accomplishment are you most proud of personally? And then what accomplishment are you aware impresses others?
Oh wow. Okay. I have made full time money from music without being involved with record labels at all. That was something that did not seem possible working at a record label. And it was terrifying when I tried it. So now that I'm there, I have multiple income streams. I think that that's something that anyone else who's doing that would understand it and would get that. But that's the one that I'm proud of. And then the one that I think, well, I already know. I'm singing on a song called Clarity by Zed, and it
Okay.
won Grammy for the Dance Song of the Year back in 2012 or whatever year that was.
Yeah.
It definitely has sold like maybe 3 million copies, and it keeps churning up, and I still keep getting royalty checks from it. So that's nice.
I teach economics. To have wealth, you have to have multiple income streams, right? And I know you're building that. And so if would you be willing just to share the number, like how many income streams do you maintain to keep that life going?
Well, right now I have three, and I'm building a fourth.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that you can have the life that you want, but it may not look like just one thing.
It probably won't look like one thing because the problem with one thing is if it ever dips, you ruin everything. You go back to zero. So I did that for a while until Stanley Clark gave me that advice. He was like, you got to have multiple income streams. And if I can add one more piece of advice for anyone
Sure.
listening to this, take your time, build one till it's like and getting momentum. Then start building the next 100% of your love into it. So
I'm curious. I know you kind of dropped Stanley Clark giving you some good advice. Is there a person or a conversation that stands out as changing the trajectory of your life? Like, would you say that conversation with Stanley Clark was it, or is there another that also stands out?
I got like one a year.
Ah, you're lucky, or
Yeah.
rather wise.
Yeah, well, it's just when you go one direction, every conversation you have there has the potential to push you in another direction. Then you get another one. So it's just like a spider web of direction. I
Hmm.
had a conversation with Dr. Dre. We were eating lunch. It was just me and him, and he asked me about my music. At that time, I was working hard and working for very little money to kind of get my foot in the door. And I said, I think once I get one or two solid placements, meaning like songs on some album or a like out on the radio, I think then they'll be willing to offer me money from what I do. He laughed and said, "Listen, man, they still to this day haven't offered me any money to do anything. You just got to figure out how to make all these people pay." And I think that was the first thing that put a little gangster in me, because it was like,
Yeah.
all right, I got it. Now there's no, hey, thanks, Malachi, great job. Here's some money. That never is gonna happen,
Mm.
and I kind of let that idea go, and I just started leveraging to make sure that I got paid.
Is there an experience that highlights what it is to be a Black man in America for you?
When I was a teen, I worked. I was like maybe 17. I was working at a camp, and they had an after school program, and just helping out, watching the kids, and they would pay me to just be with the kids, so the parents would come pick them up. But once a month, they'd have like video game day where the counselors would bring in video games, and we just play video games with the kids. So I normally would get a ride to the school. On this day, I couldn't, so I had a choice to make. Do I bring my video games and walk there? It's about a mile, or do I just not bring the games? So I'm bringing the games, put them in a backpack, and put my jacket over the backpack just in case something happened. I could run, and I wouldn't. No one could take my backpack and steal $1,000 worth of gear. I'm 1 block away from the community center, and a cop pulls me over. I've never heard of anyone getting pulled over while walking, and it's like I thought if I'm walking, maybe a cop on foot would stop me, but she pulls over and she made me take everything off and take everything out of my bag to see if I had stolen the stuff that I was carrying, and I just couldn't believe that I had to now try to prove that the stuff in the bag was mine, and I had no way of proving it. I mean, it's just my stuff. And then she took my license and wrote down all my information. Said she was going to come to my house and talk to my parents to make sure that it was mine. And she said, "I know where you are." And then she hopped in a car and left as all of my stuff was all over the sidewalk, people walking by. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get robbed. So here's someone that I feel like we pay to patrol and protect us. And she put me in the most compromising position ever, and embarrassed me and made me late for work. Didn't make any sense. So yeah, and it just left me with this feeling of like, okay, I know I can't count on the police to protect me. I actually have to be wary of them too. You're guilty until proven innocent, and even once you're proven innocent, you still might be found guilty.
So were you able to get everything together and put it back in your backpack?
What's interesting, someone who I knew was in a gang that I was intimidated by walked up and asked me if I was okay and didn't even try to like hurt me or take my stuff. And they said something, I'm not gonna repeat what he said, but it was kind of in solidarity with me, negatively about the police. And I realized, wow, these guys are actually on my side and the cops are actually on the other side. And that was kind of I first realized like I was afraid of this man who I thought was gonna hurt me, but he actually was rooting for me because of the color of
Right.
my skin. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We bonded over that. Like I'm pretty sure if I would have just been out there and I would have had the games in my hand and he would have just saw me, he probably wouldn't have been so friendly. But seeing the cops pick on me made him like be like, all right, yo, I gotta help this guy. Which is kind
Yeah.
of interesting that it unified us.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you. That's very telling. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about that?
Well, I'm thinking of another interaction I had. It's like there's more than one America. So like I didn't realize I was a black man in America because I grew up in an all black neighborhood. And when I was in college in Boston, there's parties everywhere. I went to this one party and I think I was 21 at the time. So everyone else is under 21 and they're all drinking. So
Mhm.
my biggest concern about that is if we get raided, it could look like I bought everyone alcohol. Like that could be
Mm.
something that falls on my because I've seen that happen before. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know what? I'll stop worrying about it. Just chill. And this girl goes, "Hey, do you like to party?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love to party. I'm a party animal." So she brings me in the back, and they're doing cocaine. I did not
Uh-uh.
know that was the code for cocaine. Well, yeah. So if anyone that doesn't know that, that's apparently the code for it. So I'm like, oh no, this is not my party at all. Sorry. So as I'm leaving, I hear the cops pound on the front door, and I'm just sweating bullets now because now here I am in this place that has illicit drugs and underage drinking, and me and my friend are the only two black guys. So I'm like, oh, this is not a good situation. So the girl that brought me in there, she comes out, she's got it on her face,
No.
on
No.
her face,
No.
and she
No.
runs to the door and starts cursing at the cops. You don't have a warrant. You can't come in this house. And so me and my friend just turned and put our hands on the wall immediately, like, oh, it's a wrap. Like we all going down. I don't want to get shot. So we literally are pressed up against the wall, and the cops come in, and one of them taps me and says, "Bro, you can put your hands down. We're not gonna arrest anyone." And I'm like, what do you mean you're not gonna arrest me? You guys arrest us for having too loud music sometimes. He says, if we arrested one person from each party that we broke up, there would not be a place to put everybody. not enough cells to hold all the people. So he said, all we care about is that you keep the noise down and we'll be on our way. And then they left, and then they turned the music back up and the party kept going the way it was. And I was floored because I now knew that there's two different sets of rules depending on who you are. I don't know, that was a really eye-opening time for me. It was really hard to go back to New York and then be with my friends and have the cops shut us down just for starting the party. We didn't have the music on yet.
Wow. It just kind of leaves me speechless, quite frankly. I can't help but picture, a little bit of white on the side of the face.
And yelling at the cop at the same time while she has illegal drugs on her face. I could not believe it, the entitlement and the expectation that there was nothing bad going to happen to her.
Right.
So I really got in that moment that being Black in America is slightly different.
That's one of those stories that makes it clear. Yeah. So I phrase this question this way. If America was a woman, what would you say to her? And I do want to be responsible in saying that because someone asked me on a different interview, well, what if I'm not into women? Which I did. And I just, I realized in his pointing that out is that I was making the assumption of a straight world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to ask this question this way to all my Black men. And I just thought I would be responsible for that to notice where I have my own, presumptions, assumptions, and things like that.
The conversation, right? Like,
yeah. So if America was a woman, what would you say to her?
I would say, please let me know what your expectations are and where I'm not meeting them, such that we can have a relationship that empowers and allows both of us to grow. Because right now, I'm doing everything that I think I'm doing everything right, the way you told me to do it. But yeah, I still end up on the couch every single night. I keep hearing conversations about how come Black people this and Black people, and I have to now defend an entire skin color. And the conversation today I was having with someone was about Black people killing Black people, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know a single Black person who's killed another Black person. So like, you're gonna have to talk to someone who has killed Black people if you want to get that answer. It's just so weird that I have to be responsible for everybody that has my skin complexion, but I don't get to get a pat on the back for everyone like Obama or Jay-Z. It's like, if the guy at the bottom of the barrel is me, then shouldn't Obama also be me? So like, say thank you for the good things too. I don't know. I feel like America just knows every bad thing that I've done. Doesn't care about any of the good things.
Right? Yeah. Speaking of being on the couch and relationship, what is love to you?
I think love is taking care of another's needs. I think Buddha said it best. When you like a flower, you pluck it. When you love a flower, you water it. It's not about mine. It's about, what do you need? I love all my students. I love all my family. I love all these people. I'm giving to them, contributing to them so that they can grow. With no expectation of being loved back. If you have that expectation, it's no longer love. Yeah.
Is there anything about you, Malachi, that we haven't covered so far, that you haven't shared yet, that would challenge the stereotype?
Oh, well, since being out in LA, I've changed so many things that challenge the stereotype. I think one is that Black people are very offended when white people are afraid of us, and I'm no longer offended by their fear. And I'll tell you why. I was working on my car, and this giant Hispanic man comes straight towards me while I'm working on the car. And my heart starts pounding. I get the fight. And I grab my wrench because I'm like, I'm going to have to hit this guy if he tries to like hit me and take my car. And yeah, last minute, I'm like preparing for it. I decide, all right, I can't swing until he tries to hit me first. And he goes around my car, jumps out, and goes, rah! And I hear, oh my God, Daddy, you scared me. I realized this guy was crouching, using my car as cover so he could jump out and scare. He's my neighbor. I've never even met him. So I had now like this remorse, I felt really bad that I jumped to that conclusion so quickly, and I said, "Man, does that make me racist against Hispanic people?" And then I went, "No, this is a Hispanic neighborhood I'm living in. I'm the only non-Hispanic here." So, if I was being really honest, I was terrified because I knew that if this man wanted my car, there was nothing I could do to stop him because he was a mammoth of a man. And then it hit me. If I'm walking down the street and someone sees me and they cross the street, it's not because I'm black, it's because I'm huge. I'm like buff and they're recognizing my power. Like if you saw a tiger coming towards you, you don't go, well, maybe the tiger is going to be nice. No, like the potential of it to overpower you is enough for you to go, I'm going to go this way. So now whenever I see people across the street, I low key go, thank you, because they're acknowledging and recognizing my power, if that makes sense. And I find that way more empowering.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how dare you cross the street, And after I made that distinction, it then hit me when our people were freed from slavery, we were not allowed to walk on the sidewalk. If someone came to us, we had to cross the street. So now we get the sidewalk now, right? That challenges the stereotype.
And I get to that you're playing with it to create power for yourself, right? Yeah, and saying, well, now you cross the street.
Yeah, I know it's not true. Like, whatever it is in their head is what's in their head. But I could make it mean they're afraid because the media says this about me, and But the truth is, I am a man who's done multiple martial arts. I'm in really good shape. I could see if you don't know people. Like I walk down the street sometimes, I see people, and my heart starts beating, and I gotta like just keep my head straight ahead because I'm scared. And then that way I'm flattered.
Well, and I must say that I walk my dog, and sometimes I'll have a schedule that's so busy I can only walk him after dark. When I do, I'm always keeping my eye open for guys versus girls, regardless of race. If I'm out after dark walking my dog, and a man is coming down the street, I am on alert, checking him out, trying to read. Whereas a female, I don't. And it's funny, a woman could be just as harmful. You don't have to be a male to have a gun or a knife or whatever, but I get that we're just, like you said, protecting self.
And I think if one thing could change that would make everyone a little more empowered, I think one thing, it would be requirement for everyone to learn self-defense. If everyone knew self-defense, people would be less likely to prey on people because you never know who actually could fight. I think everything would go down and then people would feel more empowered walking down the street.
Yeah, you never know their power, what's underneath. Right. As we finish the interview, my last question to you is, having had this conversation, is there anything that opened up in terms of, what you noticed, what you realized, something you see differently?
Well, I see that there are, Black women that support and love and believe in us and don't see us as the enemy. This has been very therapeutic. Thank you. Sometimes as a Black man, I feel very alone. Like the only people that relate to me and see me as the good guy is other Black men. So this has been very awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Malachi. Well, I'll end the interview by just saying, Malachi, I acknowledge you for being a powerhouse with creativity. I acknowledge you for your stand for art in the world, and not just art for art's sake, but art to let our soul loose, to let our heart free. Like that's what I see you do and all the work you do. I know that for you, giving people access to play and creativity is really about freeing them. And so I thank you for being that stand in the world for our freedom, the freedom of our souls to fly. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge you too. Just every conversation I have with you just makes my heart bigger and makes my soul happier.
Thank you.
Just a shining light.
Thank you for listening. As you can hear, you do not want to miss any of these brothers. Make sure you subscribe. You can find more at our website, 365brothers.com. 365brothers.com. This is Robin Shine. To listen is to love.